What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another market update for vintage Kenner Star Wars mint on card items. I've got one diecast. I think I've got a Power of the Force mini rig. Lots of Power of the Force last 17 that were very high grade that sold for big money. Some Canadian Empire Strikes Back that I thought were worth covering. As always, thanks to my Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/actionfiguregrader is where you can go to sign up to get 24 hours early access to all my videos. Let's start off with kind of a beater. It's not like in perfect shape, certainly not a gradable item in my opinion. Probably like a 70 grade land speeder diecast. So this was from 1978, a 12 back diecast land speeder. It had some obvious condition issues to the card, but this is a good one that you could put it in a sliding acrylic case and it would look perfectly fine. The blister was in great shape. It's just the card itself had some issues. And that one sold in an auction for $280. Really good deal, I think, for a budget-friendly mint-on-card diecast. Beautiful looking example there. All right, here was the debut card for Yoda, clear blister UKG 75. This was sold over in the UK for 515 pounds, which is 646 US dollars. This is kind of one of those ones that I always tell people to target ungraded. You can find 32B debut card Yodas all over the place. They're regularly come up on eBay, and I think you can get a 75 grade-ish kind of condition Yoda mint on card for, you know, let's call it 450, maybe 500. You might go to 550, and I think you can get a 75 or an 80 grade if you submit it yourself. So there are lots of good deals out there on these, and you just got to be patient. This was certainly a nice example, and I don't think it was a gross overpay or anything at $646. Once you account for shipping to and from the grading companies, you're probably going to end up right around here if you bought one ungraded. But 80, 75, 85 were the sub scores on that one. And again, 646 US dollars took that one home. This was a beauty. I sent this one out to my Patreon supporters in a buy it now alert, and it did sell fairly quickly thereafter. This is a seller that I bought from in the past. It was an AFA 80 41 back E C3PO. I might have actually shown it in a what to buy video as well. I can't remember. Clear blister, Walmart price tag, and it was a punched example. That one sold for $500 in a buy it now situation. I thought that was very fair for what it was. High grade and nice high sub scores for the grades. 80, 85, 85 were the sub scores. So that was a really nice looking C3PO first 12 on an Empire Strikes Back card, which can be difficult to find sometimes. Next up was some Canadian items that sold at auction that I had to cover because the prices were certainly pretty high. And I'm not saying that they were overpays by any means, because Canadian Empire Strikes Back cards are very desirable. This one was an AFA 80 Luke Skywalker in his X-Wing gear, unpunched example, no price sticker, clear blister, 85, 85, 75 were the sub scores on that one. Not sure why this one got a 75 for the figure score, given that the weapon was still taped to the inside of the blister, but it is what it is. And, you know, that one sold for $10.25 for a Canadian Luke X-Wing. Same seller had a yellowed blister Han Solo in his Hoth outfit Canadian card. Unpunched, no price sticker. That one sold for $331.90. If this one had been a clear blister, I bet you could probably double this price pretty easily. But again, it was a yellowed 80. $331.90 took that one home. And also had a yellowed blister R2-D2 sensor scope on the Canadian card back. This one is the 45 back Star Wars display arena. I just like the way this one looks. The blue for the offer sticker really pops with that blue background. And of course, the French language on the card also makes it very desirable. The sub scores were straight 85s for an overall 85 yellowed blister. That one sold for $824. And again, I think that would have been easily over $1,000 if that one had been a clear blister. So I thought that was a pretty fair price. Next up was the debut card for Luke Skywalker in his Hoth battle gear. Again, the 45 back Star Wars display arena. This one also was an AFA 85. Again, yellow blister, unpunched, no price sticker. And that one sold for big money, $915. I'd like to think if this was a clear blister, AFA 85, whoo, I bet it would be like $1,500. That's my guess on that one. But that was a really nice example. I think that's a good discount for just the yellow blister, given that was an AFA 85. Next up was a U.S. card, C-3PO removable limbs on the 47 back free forearm offer. And I believe that one of y'all told me that this one was the debut card for the removable limbs. And it was an AFA 85, again, yellow blister, but not too bad with the yellowing on that one. It was a punched example, and it sold for big money, $886. So again, another data point for this one, that it just usually commands a really big price. And I think a clear blister, I vaguely remember showing on the channel maybe 6 months ago a clear blister that sold for insane money. And again, it's a different time in the collectibles market 6 months ago where prices were a little bit higher, but I want to say it was around $1,500 or so. It might have been even higher than that for all I remember. So again, I think in the current market environment, to get a lightly yellowed blister AFA 85 debut card for the removable limbs C-3PO, $886, that's probably fair market value. Next up was a 41A survival kit offer Lando. And it had some condition issues at the top of the card there. You can see some creasing and color breaking creases. One price sticker, but the blister on it maybe was faintly yellowed in the upper left-hand corner. But a very nice looking card overall. The blister, otherwise looked really good. It just had a couple of condition issues for the card, and that's what held the price down. $179.50 on that one. But another very budget-friendly item that would look great in a display case. Next up was another one that was not really gradable in my opinion, just given all of the damage to the card. You can see some creases on this tri-logo Lando skiff guard. And the blister was in great shape. It just had that big crease on the upper portion of the card. That one sold for $172.50. I think that maybe is a little bit high. I was thinking more like $150 on that one, if not even lower. I've seen AFA 75s go for like $250, $260, somewhere in there. So this one I think would probably grade out about a 70. And again, is it fair? It's not the worst overpay in my opinion, but probably a slightly overpaid. This one was a shocker. This one was Brian's Toys, and this was an AFA 75 Ben Kenobi, and it looks like I can't tell. It looks like the white-haired Ben Kenobi to me. Here's the label on it. Now, this is the German Parker tri-logo card back, and maybe that's why it sold for so high. 80, 70, 85 were the sub-scores for an overall 75. And, again, it was labeled as the German Parker card back. I haven't looked really closely at the backs of the cards to compare what it says at the bottom versus kind of a standard Palatoy tri-logo. But this one sold for big money, $825. That was significantly higher than what I expected this one to sell for. So I don't know if it was because it was the German Parker card back, or if it was because it was a color variation for the particular figure for Ben Kenobi that caused that one to go so high. But $825 was the final sales price on that one. Next up, I've got some Power of the Force figures, last 17, as well as this Princess Leia Organa in her combat poncho. This one was an 80+ grade. Obviously, it's got yellowing to the blister, which is common. Unpunched, no price sticker. That one sold for $392. And then here's some last 17 that also sold. This one was an AFA 80 General Lando, unpunched, no price sticker. Very nice example. That one sold for $565, which I thought was a very fair deal. I've seen some ungraded examples approach $450, so I thought that was a pretty decent deal on that General Lando. 80+ grade A-Wing pilot, again, unpunched, no price sticker. That one sold for $900. That's a big number there, but certainly a very desirable one. I really like the card art on that one with the A-Wing. But overall, 80+, 80, 85, 85 were the sub-scores, unpunched and no price sticker. $900, it seems like a lot of money, but that one was a very high grade. Also, I've got an 80+ Amanaman. It was labeled as a yellowed blister, but it was very faint yellowing. It looks like it's just got yellowing to the inner tray. I don't see much in the way of yellowing to the actual outer blister, but it looks like that inner tray is what caused the yellow designation on the label. Unpunched again and no price sticker. That one sold for $910. So very high prices on these, but that one was certainly a nice example. You usually don't see the outer blister in this kind of condition. It looks very, very clear to me. It's just that inner blister or the inner tray that had some yellowing to it. Next up, a very expensive one. This one was an AFA 85 Han Solo in the carbonite chamber. Again, unpunched, no price sticker. So this seller had some beautiful Power of the Force last 17 for sale. And this one sold for big money, even in an auction. $1,487 for Han Solo in Carbonite, AFA 85. And the subscores on that one, let's see if we can find the label on that one. Here it is, 85, 85, 90. So very, very high grade example. And 1487 took that one home. But that one was certainly a beautiful example. Next up here is that mini rig on the Power of the Force card. This is the Security Scout, and it was graded UKG yellowed 65. So not a very high grade, but not one you find graded very often or even at all, for sale, still mint on card. Very heavy yellowing to the blister, obviously, but that's pretty common for these mini rigs on the Power of the Force card back. So that one sold for $311, which is $390 US dollars. And, again, it's not a high grade, but, these mini rigs, especially the Power of the Force mini rigs, they're just tough to find and still, sealed condition without any cracks. Next up, I've got some Droids figures. This is a Canadian Droids Kia Mall. Obvious yellowing to the blister, but otherwise in really great shape. This one was unpunched, and you can see that card back there. And here's the back of the card. Very great. This is probably an 80 grade easily for Kia Mall, and just very clean overall. And that one sold for $178.50. So I was a little surprised that one didn't go higher, because I've seen even the standard US cards go for more than that, even with the yellowing to this blister. So I thought that was a really good deal there. $178.50 took that one home. And then we got two big ones to finish things off. This one was an AFA yellowed 75 R2-D2 on the Droids card back. This one was the US release. It was a punched example, no price sticker. And the subscores on that one were 80, 75, 85 for an overall 75. So you can see that the main reason it got that 75 score for the blister, it's got a pretty big ding on the right hand side, but it looks to be still fully sealed, no cracks in the blister, which is a common problem for these. This one sold for $937, which I actually think is not a bad deal at all. I've seen them sell for $800 to $850 ungraded in this kind of condition. So $937 I think was very fair. And then finally we've got an 80 plus grade yellowed blister C-3PO on the Droids card back, another US card back. This one was graded with subgrades of 80, 80, 90 for the figure subscore. So very high grade. And that one sold for $1,100. I mean, 6-9 months ago, this was more like $1,500 to $1,600 in this kind of grade. So $1,100 is probably about fair market value. I think that was very fair. It wasn't a steal by any means, but I do think that's probably about fair market value. Usually you see these in this kind of condition go $900 to $950. You might even hit $1,000 ungraded if it's unpunched. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of go through some last 17. We got some Droids, a lot of Empire Strikes Back Canadian card backs that I thought were interesting sales. I hope you enjoyed this look at some recent sales on eBay. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon.